we're going to go over how to apply the aiToonShader for Arnold and use an additional script for cross-hatching for the shading. So right now I just have the normal AI standard surface, or no, I have just Lambert 1 applied to it, and we're going to be creating a new material. So right click and hold, assign new material, and we're not going to be creating the normal AI standard surface. We want the aiToonShader. It will look like the normal AI standard surface. It'll be flat gray. I'm going to bring in a simple sky dome. And if I do a render right now, nothing will look out of the ordinary. It will not look like a aiToonShader at all. And that's because we have to change the rendering type. And you can do that in the render settings, which you can get to with this button right here, or under Windows, Rendering Editors, and Render Settings. And under, if it's Arnold Renderer and Filter, you have to change the type from Gaussian to Contour. And when you do that, you will get a nice outline around your object. I'm going to select Eddy just to get to the aiToonShader itself. I'm also going to change my render resolution or aspect ratio so I can get them fitting a little bit better. And with the aiToonShader, we have a few different options. We have edge color, which will just change what color the outline is. I'm going to leave it on black for now. Edge opacity will fade it in and out. And width scaling will change how thick it is. I believe you can override it. No. So 1 is the biggest for this one. When you go down to edge detection, you have angle threshold. And bringing it down, it will detect more of the angles on the actual geometry, giving you more of an outline. If you go down too far, it is going to detect every single angle. And this does change based on your distance. So if you get really, really close, it might look different than if you were really, really far away. So if you are moving the camera in and out, you might have to do some kind of tricky changing of the width scaling to make sure it was looking, or the angle threshold to make sure it was looking all right. You also have the option of a silhouette, and this will just put an outline around all of the different pieces. So every separate model will have its own outline. You can enable that on and off. And then if you had some base materials, so you textured in Painter, you have your base color, you have your specular roughness, and if you go down further, you do have room for your geometry and bump mapping. There's also options for stylized highlights. So if you open up these stylized highlights, if I change the color, it will not do anything at all because it's looking for a light, and I currently don't have a light that will work with it. So I'm going to create a directional light. The sky dome will not work with these stylized highlights. Directional lights work really well. And I'm just going to have a light coming in from whatever angle you want. And I'm going to copy the name of the shape. So the second tab will end with light shape 1. So I just have directional light shape 1. And I'm going to copy this name. And on the aiToonShader, I'm going to scroll down to Stylize Highlights and paste that name in. Now when I hit render, it'll be a little bit brighter than it was before because there's a light. But right now, there's not going to be any highlights because highlights are your specular and our weight is set to 0. So I'm going to turn that weight up and you will start to have some specular highlights. You can change the highlight colors. And you can start getting some nice effects. You can also still rotate the light to change how those highlights are, where those highlights are being cast. I'm going to duplicate the light, bring it to the other side, and now copy this new name for a second highlight. And then just put a space, type it in, hit enter, and I will now have two separate highlights cast on the model, and you can move them around individually. You can change the light color, so it'll override the specular highlight a bit, so you can have some custom coloring on your different highlights. And if you leave it at white, you'll have a more accurate color depending on what you chose for the highlight itself. Next, I'm going to go over how to add some of the halftone shading in. So I'm just going to hide these directional lights for now. Let's get rid of them. There we go. And I'm going to turn down my specular weight just to get it back down so I don't have some of those messy highlights on it. So to do the halftone shading, I'm going to go down to, where is it? Base and tone map. It's very important you put it in the base tone map, not anywhere else that says tone map. Click on the checkerboard, and I'm going to search for Arnold and type in OSL for the AI OSL shader. I will get this connection editor open, and we'll have to make the correct selection here. And we need to choose the out value and then have it go into the base tone map over here. It won't look any different because it is looking for some code to tell it what to do. It is an OSL shader. I'll have the link for this in the description of the video, and you just need to copy this code from line 1, the 2 slashes, down to line 35 with that last bracket. And it's going to paste it directly into the compile status and hit compile OSL code. And then in your Arnold render view, come up to render and where is update render, update full scene. So now it'll look like this. We'll have a lot of that halftone everywhere, which will not look great. So I'm going to come down and maybe change the scale to 4 for just to make it a little bit smaller. And then we have to do something to make it not go everywhere on the model. We just want it in the shadows. And to do that, we need to make a gradient. And in Maya, the gradient is called a ramp. And since we are doing Arnold, it needs to be an AI ramp. So where it has input value, still on the OSL shader, I'm going to go to input value, go to the checkerboard, and make sure you are searching just for Arnold, and type in AI ramp, and we want the AI ramp RGB. This will give us sliders for black to white values, and you can move them around to get that cross-hatching kind of wherever you want. And depending on how you do it, it will be more in the shadowed areas. There you go. It's looking pretty nice and simple. You still have all the same ability to change the color just through base and color if you want them to have a slightly different color skin. And you can get some pretty nice toon shading without too much work. The angle threshold is probably the most important one because that does dictate how the lines are being drawn on the model.